Welcome as LoyalTV brings you to Wheeler Park in Oklahoma City. Join us as we hear the tale of how a single white-tailed deer began a flock of migration to this treasured park.
Wheeler Park was really born out of the land run of 1889. James B. Wheeler, who was a banker and a land developer from the East, he very wisely joined the Planning Commission and helped grid out the city, and it was quite near his land. Then he opened the Wheeler Housing Edition, and he appealed to buyers by including this beautiful tree-lined park right next to the neighborhood. It was very popular, not only with the neighbors, but also with the surrounding community, who started flocking to the park on the weekends, and newspapers report the numbers being up in the thousands. Well then, in 1902, as James B. Wheeler was kind of reaching the end of his life, he donated the 44 acres to the city as a recreation area. And he had two stipulations: one, that the city take care of the park, and two, that it bear his name forever. Wheeler Park was definitely the place to go to get outdoors and enjoy nature, to go to a parade, to have a picnic, or maybe try out that new Kodak camera for the first time. So this was an important nature place for early Oklahoma City. Well, its reputation was about to change a little bit with the donation of an animal. Because in 1902, another important thing happened. Someone donated a white-tailed deer, and the park put it behind a fence. And suddenly, thousands of visitors started showing up to see this deer. And you're thinking, why? But 100 years ago, white-tailed deer were nearly extinct, gone the way of the bison and so much of the wildlife. So this was a very exciting thing to people. But others started thinking, oh, let's add some more animals to the nature park, like the neighbor who had a fox that kept eating his chickens and that kind of thing. So it was a number of native wildlife animals like armadillos and bobcats and coyotes. Eventually, bears from the southern part of the state, and they were extremely popular. So as you can see, the zoo was starting to grow as this wildlife menagerie. And in 1903, the newspaper was actually referring to it as a zoo in the papers. So Labor Day of 1903, they actually dedicated Wheeler Park as a zoo. Sea lions that came in 1906. Followed by ostriches, and then the camels that the Shriners let live at the Oklahoma City Zoo. But things changed in the 1920s, because you have to remember that the park was right along the river, and it had this very low, it was dipped way down. And so anytime there were heavy rains, there were flooding issues. And in the early 1920s, there was a lot of rain. And in 1923, there was a flood so large that they say the park was 8 to 10 feet underwater. And when these large rains would come, the zookeepers would either let the native animals out and just hope that they escaped, and then the exotic ones, they would put boxes in their exhibits so they could climb above the water line. And of course, some animals were lost. So the city had to make the decision to move the zoo from Wheeler Park. And so the animals were temporarily relocated to the fairgrounds in 1923 while a new location was sought. And the decision was made to choose Lincoln Park. And so in 1925, the animals moved to Lincoln Park, and that is the location of the zoo today. And so all these years later, almost 100 years later, the zoo is a first-class site, but it started at Wheeler Park.
Today, Wheeler Park has become a family destination for different reasons and leaves the care of wild animals in the caring hands of Oklahoma City Zoo. Don't forget to join us next week here on LoyalTV.